You're listening to the Bell to Coffin podcast with your host, the Coffin King, Hostage Hirsch, and Jake Rich.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to part 2 of A Night with Moonshine Mantell. And you know, there's a major, harrowing reason why Moonshine. I usually, cut some witty promo or some lead into this, but this is not the appropriate time for this. The entire reason that we're even doing this is Moonshine sent Clay a text about what he wants to talk about actually on this show. We just said it just a moment ago. He could sit here and just bullshit about, how everything is hunky dory and green grass, blue skies, beautiful sunshine, everything. But that just ain't the case always.
That wouldn't be the truth.
And
this wouldn't be the Moonshine way,
100%. And and our podcast is a great place for somebody to be as real as they possibly can. And Moonshine, do you just want to rip off the Band-Aid for us?
Yeah, well, I kind of feel like I have to now. Well, I mean, and it's not, getting back to what you just said, it's not that, life is going terrible for me right now. I mean, in fact, I'm probably at the best point in my life, right, aside from some of the injuries and everything. I'm right now, mentally and, spiritually, I'm at the best point in my life, man. So it's not all, it's not gray clouds, and I don't want anyone to be like, oh, there's something going, but there has been a lot of gray clouds before that. It took a lot for me to get to this point, and it was almost I don't want to say a lifetime, but it was damn near a lifetime of struggle and dealing with different things, and
dealing with fucking demons, man.
Yeah, man.
That's the only way to put it.
Right. But yeah, like you were saying, I hit up Clay before we did the interview and kind of like smartened him up to stuff I had going on, and long story short, these last, I would say, I mean, it's been years of this, but I would say for the past, probably about a good solid 4 years, maybe strong, and then there's probably about 5 or 6 years, maybe total. But for the past, maybe 4 years or whatever, man, I've just been dealing with a lot of addiction issues. And I shouldn't say a lot of, I just been one addiction issue. And, it's been cocaine, man. And it's just, I fell off really, really, really hard with my addiction to that stuff. And just to give everyone kind of a frame of reference, it just my usage and everything. It's just, let's just say, I've been good and everything for the last year, and I've turned my life around. And thanks to God, and just a lot of great people in my inner circle. But before that, man, I was a mess. And the thing was, I was just a walking, functioning addict, and nobody knew, and to give you guys a frame of reference, I was for about 4 years straight, I would say, I don't think there was a if the day ended in the letter Y, I was using, and it was crazy. I think about it now, and it's just, I not just using, not just a little bit here, a little bit there. It's like, from sun up to sundown, and past that. And if I even got any sleep, but it became a never ending cycle of just, and I could be off a little bit, but I'd say it's about 4 years of this, man. And it's just, it felt like chaos in my life. And, like I said, the worst part about it is being a functioning addict. I always used to think that was my hidden talent, so to speak, right? Is because I'd be able to be high and just, be able to sneak off, do whatever, and come back. Nobody knew, that was my hidden talent. That was my special skill, so to speak, right? But that's when that becomes your entire life, and you can't hold any conversations or hold any any kind of relationships and have anything of substance because you're too worried about your next fucking fix. That's it's
you forget who you are.
Man, it's just
fundamentally, just as a human being, like you forget who you are, what you're supposed to be.
Yep.
I'll tell you a little bit of my story. When I was getting out of high school, I was addicted to over-the-counter pain medication. I was addicted to anything I could get my hands on. Anybody that had a prescription, anything, I was taking it for probably 2 to 3 years.
Man.
So I absolutely can relate to that. I
And
didn't
it's
want to feel anything, and
yeah,
I 18 to 21, I don't remember it.
right. And yeah, it's nuts because you don't realize you're that deep in it until you're too deep in it and you can't get out and you're like, oh shit, you know. Um, yeah, man. It started I started using in high school and from there into college and stuff, but it was never like, like on a daily or a weekly thing or anything like that. It's just partying here and there and stuff like that. And then there came not came a time, there was a time and it was when COVID hit. That's exactly
Mm.
what happened, man. And I'm one of those statistics about, the addictions that happened during COVID. Because all of a sudden, COVID happened, have all this extra money coming in or whatever. I paid
A
off
lot of
all my
extra
bills.
time.
I didn't have it. I had extra money, didn't have shit to do. All my bills are paid. Everything's, like credit cards paid off and everything. So fuck it, so it went from doing it from, a little bit here and there and from, maybe once or twice a month or something like that, or just, every so often uh,
Occasionally, yeah.
to, just doing it more regularly every day. And then before you know it, it's just like, okay, well, let's keep this going, man. And
Oh, hey,
it gets so bad so quick sometimes that you don't even realize how bad it is. And then by that point, you and this is how bad it got for me. And I just, I can use this, because I can vividly remember back and just it would come around to my birthday. And at this point, I'd probably been too bad in it for like a year or so. And I'd come to my birthday and I'm like, man, I really need a change. And like, this is for this birthday, for this year of my life, my main goal is to work on it, you
Yeah.
know?
mm,
And
Like it's
then,
like a New Year's resolution.
right, right. And then it would become to New Year's. And then you would make that same resolution that you made on your birthday, but now for the New Year's. And then you would get back to your birthday again. And then you make that same promise again. And you get to that. And then before you know it, you've done it about 3 or 4 years in a row. And you're just
yep.
like, holy crap. I can remember praying about this and telling myself I was going to do better 2 years ago. And now it's just, and it's just,
So
go ahead.
let me ask you this. You said it went from, obviously it starts with just, a tiny little speck, and it, snowballs into a giant thing. But where does that tiny speck come from? Where did the very first time, like, it doesn't appear out of nowhere, unless you're
Oh,
at a
dude.
party sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, so like, um, for everyone to know me, you have to know that I've been a party guy
Mm,
since 13, 14 years old, man. I had a rough childhood with some stuff,
mm,
that happened. And so the first time I found anything that would make me high and like, oh, this is I don't have to think about, some of the abuse I went through or this, that, and whatever, and this is kind of like a band-aid, so to speak. It's just like, yeah, I'll keep doing this. I'll
Yeah.
keep going with this. So, dude, my first time even messing with the stuff, I was 15,
mm.
I definitely wasn't old enough to drive yet. 14, 15 years old, you know. Um, and
You're just
then,
looking for anything to numb the pain just to make it fucking
yeah,
stop.
dude. But I mean, at that point, when I was, like I said, when I was a kid, like, it wasn't just, it was just like, well, let's try this to see what it does. Let's try this to see what it
Right.
does. Let's try this to see what it does. And it's just like, we just do this stuff to do it, It's
Yeah.
just, and you don't realize till later on, you're like, oh, you were doing it to mask something else. But at the time when you're a kid, it's just like, no, and the same, I stayed in good shape as a kid, just like I stayed in good shape as a pro wrestler doing all this stuff, that's kind of been my it's been a gift and a weakness, so to speak. It's because it's just like I've been able to sustain, an athletic build and I still been able to get in there and be able to go at a high rate through a lot of this stuff, and being on drugs all my life, even when I was a kid, still fucking worked out tons and partying and everything like that, dude. It's other people, they can't function on me. It doesn't affect me like it
Right.
used.
It's just
So
another day.
it's just, it everything affects everyone differently, man. And unfortunately, I was able to go for years with just a terrible addiction, and it was so bad, but at the same time, nobody knew,
Right.
That's what
and
was
it's just
crazy when you texted me and you told me this stuff. I immediately called you. There's no way. This is
right.
crazy. Because I was like, all the times I've been around you, all the times, and that's been 4 or 5 years. So like,
Yeah, dude, the entire time you've known me, it's been bad. So
yeah, and
yeah,
I never knew. I was like, there's no
yeah,
fucking way because like I'm not seeing any of the signs or anything that you would see from anybody, and it like really opened my mind up about everything. I was just like, holy shit, man! And just have you come on here and to tell the people, tell the world about this is it's insane to me. I'm like, yes, let's do this. Let's tell the story.
yeah. Yeah, and I mean it's not easy talking about, man. And I
No.
mean obviously and I think that's what kind of one thing I want to get across and make crystal clear is, anyone out there who's having issues, it doesn't matter if it's addiction issues or, trouble at home, trouble at school, whatever it is. I mean, the best thing you can do for yourself is to ask for help. Man, I
Hmm.
wish I would have asked for help so much sooner, dude. It would have saved me a lot of, not only money, but heartache, pain, because it's just like when you get to that point of addiction, what I've learned, and at least with my own story, is like you don't want to necessarily be doing it.
Right.
It's not something that you're
Yeah.
like
Once
proud of, and you're like, oh yeah, this is what I want.
once you get
It's
to a point, it's a shame. It's
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 just
just shame.
it becomes who you are, and
Yeah.
it's just what you do, and it's just like you just go about it, and you want it to end, and you go to bed at night, or if you go to bed, in my case, and
Yeah.
or if you just stay there all night, up and just crying and praying, please take this away from me, please take this away from me, and then you finally pass out and you get some sleep, but then you wake up and you're like, you know what? I don't feel so bad now. Let's start it all
Yeah.
over
Do
again.
it again.
Bro,
I was just about to ask you how many times, because I can tell you,
oh
I
my
can't.
gosh, dude.
How many times was it oh my God, I like just praying to God, I feel so bad, I feel awful, I feel if I just make it through tonight, I'll never do it again, I'll never do it again. And then
I
the next day comes and here you are.
I mean, I had that conversation almost on a, if not a everyday basis, on a weekly basis for years, man. And
Yeah.
dude, that's the thing. Like, it's just you get so defeated at a certain point. You're like, okay, ultimately, I'm just gonna die from this. And
Yeah.
it's so dumb that I didn't ask for help, because then I talk about it now and everything, and I'm just like, man, I should have just asked for help a lot sooner. But like, you just worry about the uncertainty of how people are going to take it. You don't want to lose relationships. I didn't want to lose my wife, and she was my fiance at the time. She was my girlfriend at the time. I didn't want to lose all that. I
Right.
didn't want to I didn't want to lose my wrestling school. I didn't want to lose the confidence of all the kids who I was coaching. I didn't want to lose my partnerships with everything. I had a lot to lose. And not making that, the right decision to not get help and seek help sooner. But like, I can see how people go for a long time and be like, no, man, I gotta find a way out on my own. And like,
Yep.
Yeah.
that's never the route you want to go.
Yeah.
But I can see now, as I've lived through it, how that can happen, man. And it's nuts. It's nuts coming out on the other side of this, guys. Like, I feel crazy even talking about this right now, because it's sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm just like, holy crap, did that just happen?
Yeah.
And it's just
Yeah.
it's crazy, man. But like, it's real, and it's what's out there. And the thing is, you guys, are for know firsthand, like, if you knew someone like me, or you think you know someone like me who has their shit together, or at least seems like, like they're happy, at least, at the very least, but you
You never
never
really
know,
know.
what
You
could be
never
going
really know.
on. So it's just, it really makes you think and take a step back, and it's just like, man, I really hope there's not other people out there suffering as much as I am. But
Mm.
that's kind of my hopes in all this, is just to, maybe be a voice of reason to someone out there, or at least give someone some a little bit of hope. Be like, okay, well, if this guy had, the guts to go out there and kind of change up his stuff, and he went through all that, but he came out better in the end. Maybe I can do the same too.
Yeah, dude. So what, everybody talks, anybody that's had an addiction before, they always talk about their rock bottom and stuff. What was your rock bottom? Like what was it for you?
Um, I can tell you my exact rock bottom. The exact moment, everything. I think Clay, you and I talked about it a little bit yesterday, but for everyone else, this happened, dude. And so, a few things leading up to this, right?
Yeah.
So, and this all led up to my rock bottom, which ultimately led to me getting help and getting me my whole life turned around. And like,
To
I'm
the man sitting
blessed
below.
beyond, belief today to be where I'm at compared to where I was a year ago. But leading up to me, finally coming to the point where I'm just like, man, I need help. First, uh, my wife's grandmother and Kevin Sullivan actually passed away on the same day, right? Kevin was and I was going through all that addiction stuff when I was around Kevin. I always used to hate myself so much, man. I hate saying I hate myself, but I was I was so disappointed in myself for with Kevin. He was an awesome dude, and going through all that shit and being around him and not being able to just get it's just Kevin once took me aside at a show, and he took me and we were in the back, right? And we were in, I believe it was Marshall, Texas, and we were in the back, and he goes, kid, come with me. He took me out to the ring, and we were around the ring, and he's just talking to me, and he goes, kid, he goes, I've seen a lot of talent come and go.
All right, take your time, brother.
Uh, he said, kid, he said, I've seen a lot of talent come and go out of this business. He goes, I'm telling you right now, it's only a matter of time, before you get somewhere, before someone makes you some sort of offer, before someone sees something, in you, before someone sees what I see in you. And it kills me even today to know that while Kevin was still around for those last few years, I was too messed up, just in my own world, with my own addiction and stuff, and I wasn't able to take advantage of that relationship to the fullest, and really just sit under that tree even longer and learn more. Not saying I didn't learn, because I did. I learned a great deal from him, but there's I just wish I would have been in the right mindset more with him, man. So that's one of the things that it broke my heart when it happened, dude. And I broke down, and when that happened, I just prayed to God, and I was just like, please take this away from me. I prayed up to Kevin, and just telling him I was sorry, uh, and then the next thing that happened was a few months later or whatever, Jack Stain passed away, and man, then
That one hurt
Jack's
a
passed away.
lot.
Yeah, and Jax was Jax was one of those guys. For the minute I met him, he did nothing but encourage me and try to help me and try to steer me in the right direction and try to look out for me in some way, shape, or form. He was very good to me, and you know, he passed away, and he was one of the guys. He would be throwing my name out there to other people, in other companies, and I would find out secondhand. He wouldn't even tell me he would be putting in words for me and stuff. He'd be putting in words for me, and I'd find out secondhand from people who are higher up in the business and shit. He always looked out for me, and he passed away, man, and that hurt just as just like Kevin, dude. That hurt so much because I was like, fuck, here I am wasting away. It's like two people in my life who saw so much in me, and I'm not living up to, what they would want for me. I'm not living up to what I want for me. And it was killing me, man. And then, not to keep adding this on, but this just kind of tells how everything happened. After that, that's when Ricky Starks got signed. And he got signed, and they brought him on to NXT and everything, man. And I was so freaking happy for him, dude. And Ricky's always been like one of those guys too. Like we're not like close friends by any stretch of the imagination, but we've always been like cool and boys together. If I see him, it's we're cool, man. And I've he's been one of those guys who I've always hit up throughout my entire career. Shoot him text from time to time. Hey, man, just proud of you, or this, and just how I saw your match, or this, that, whatever. Just getting advice from, man. So he got signed, and I remember when Ricky got signed to AEW, when they brought him in, it was right after NWA let him go, and he was sleeping on our boy Joe's couch at the time, and he NWA wanted him to take a pay cut going into the pandemic. But they also wanted him to continue to pump out content for them, but they were gonna, they wanted him to do basically, I don't want to say twice the work, but they wanted him to do more work, and they were gonna pay him half of what he was already making. That didn't work for Ricky, so Ricky took a bet on him. Took the bet on himself. He bet on himself. He walked away from NWA, and he bet on himself. And he was, sleeping on our boy's couch for months, and he ultimately got signed to AEW, and it makes me smile now. Just I'm extremely happy for his success. But when Ricky got signed to AEW, they it was when Cody Rhodes is doing his TNT Championship, the Open Challenge stuff or whatever. That's how Ricky got brought in. That's how ultimately he got signed. They brought him in. He was doing Tony Schiavone's podcast or whatever, the AEW podcast, where the fuck. And they were on there talking to Ricky, and he was their guest. And it was after he just got signed with them and everything. And they're like, well, who do you think is the next guy who they should bring in for this TNT? Who's someone out there that everyone should know about? Ricky dropped my name. He didn't even think twice about it. He goes, Moonshine Mantell. He goes that, and didn't have to go into great lengths about it. Just dropped my name. Nobody knew who the fuck I was. You know what I mean? But like he just, because he fucking, real recognizes real, man. And I always I appreciate that about him. That's what I got, nothing but love for him, man. And so Ricky got signed to NXT, man. And I'm sitting there, in the worst of worst places I was at. And I'm like, man, Ricky, he'd be so fucking disappointed in me, man. Like here he was putting me over to people, and ultimately trying to get me a job, and at least put my name out there and stuff in a way. And he's always been there to help me. And this entire time I've just been fucking off in my own worst way. So that happened. And then the last thing, my uncle Robert passed away, and my uncle Robert, he was mentally handicapped, but he was a big part of my life. Like, I don't remember a moment growing up when he wasn't around and he wasn't a part of my life. I still, I still have a lot of regret sometimes. I was there for my uncle a lot, but a lot of the times I was there for him, when he's in the hospital and stuff like that. Like I was fucked up, and like, it's just, you look back at those moments, you're like, man, it just, you look back with regret. And those moments all happen, right? And then it wasn't until the final thing was in 2025. I Reality Wrestling, they brought me back to be in their Rumble, right? And they were bringing me back in the Rumble, and this is the first time, like, not only are they paying me better than they ever have, but they literally paid. They flew me in, like I'm getting, like I go there, I mean, I have respect there and stuff like that. When I go to the back, like, some of the younger kids, like it's a fucking honor, like I'm proud to be a part of that crew, even though I haven't been there in a while and everything, but I'm proud to, be a part of it and have that relationship established with them and that respect. So I go back to Reality of Wrestling and I do the Rumble, right? And this whole day, it all happened like this on this day because it had to happen like this. And I know this now. It had to happen exactly like this because I had to be at my absolute worst, because it took me being at my absolute worst, where I had to finally come clean. But I get off the plane that day, go into Reality Wrestling. They fly me in. I had this thing worked out for me. It just any place I wrestled in, man, it wasn't hard for me to get what I needed, drug wise. I have, and I have connects wherever I need, and when I need it. All it takes, and if I don't, it just takes a little bit of work. So I lined something up that morning. I wasn't even planning. I was telling myself I was gonna be good. I was like, I'm not doing shit. If you're staying good, you're gonna be good. You gotta be good for this, whatever. Get on the plane. I'm about 20 minutes from landing. I get that itch. I gotta scratch it. And I'm just like, I'll shoot a text to my dealer. Lo and behold, he not only is he close by and I don't have to go find him, he's literally staying, at the airport hotel. So I fly in. It couldn't have been more perfect. I land, go get my bags and everything, get on my phone, get an Uber, take me 3 minutes down the street. I'm going to go meet up with him real quick, get my stuff, and then I'll wait for my ride. Worked out perfectly for me, man. And never worked that perfectly. I usually have to go, have someone take me there, whatever, but I always was able to get it, but it was never that perfect.
Yeah.
Anyways, get it. Go through the entire day. I'm a mess, just a mess. I've done too much at this point. It's like, well, I'm a mess in life in general at this point. I'm at my lowest of freaking lows. And it's only getting worse by the minute that day. So go through all the motions that day. No one really notices everything, anything's wrong with me, but like, I'm not at 100%. I'm like not talking to anyone. I don't want to be around anyone. I'm sneaking off doing this, that, and whatever everywhere, and it's just like, it's not good. And my performance was like subpar, at least to my standards. I mean, maybe no one else noticed, but to my own, I was subpar and I wasn't happy with it. And that night, or that night in the crowd, my friend Tony's a mentor of mine. He's from Louisiana, right? I met him through wrestling. He was a fan, and through his fandom, we became like friends, and now he's a mentor and one of my best friends. Kind of more like almost like a father figure, so to speak. In a way. But Tony was there that night, and Tony is also close with Ryan Davidson, and because I introduced them, and he's kind of like the same kind of mentor to Ryan Davidson as well. Have the match that night. After that night, after the show, Tony's staying, close by, and he offers, "Hey, man, if you want to crash at the hotel with me, I'll wake up in the morning, take you right to the hotel. I mean, not right to the airport, nice and easy and everything like that." And I was like, "Yeah, that's perfect, man. It makes my life a lot easier." That night, obviously, don't go to bed. I'm still doing stuff, even when he's sleeping in the hotel room doing stuff. I mean, just like it's terrible. And like this is a godly man. A man. Tony's relationship with me is he was a fan, but then from there, he tried to get me closer with God. He started sending me scriptures, tried to get me involved with a church anywhere, trying to get me to go on men's retreats to kind of change my life around. He didn't know what I had going on in my life with addictions. He didn't know about my past life or anything like that. This is just a man reaching out to me, trying to show me a better way. And this is just, in general, but not knowing anything about me, not knowing any of my flaws, not knowing any of this stuff. So get up the next morning. I'm already up, but obviously, but we go and he's taking me to back to the airport. And finally, dude, I just break down. I break down. And I just start bawling in the car with him, and I'm just like, and he's just like, well, what's wrong, man? This can't kind of coming out of nowhere. And I'm just like, Tony, I don't know what to do, man. I was like, I'm screwed, dude. I was like, I can't, I have an addiction right now that there's no way I can overcome this. Like I don't have the money to go to rehab. I don't have I don't have no money at this point in my account because it's all been going up my nose, but I damn sure don't have, thousands or tens of thousands to go to a rehab. I don't have anything and everything, and it's just, I'm lowest of lows. And Tony, for years, had been inviting me to go with him on one of these. It's like a church ministry retreat, right? Through like some of the ministries down there in Louisiana area. I always, not only did I always have a busy schedule with wrestling, but last thing I want to do on my off weekends is go to a church retreat. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's like that's not where I was in life, dude. And here's the thing: I grew up going to the church. I grew up going to church. Even in my worst of worst, I was still praying every single day. It's not. It was never a matter of not having faith or believing or anything like that. I always have faith that and I've always had things happen in my life to let me know that there is a higher power. But like, I was screwed at that point. And I told Tony all that. And he finally, like, he's just like, Ryan, he's just like, he's like, I've been asking you all these years. And he's just like, I think he's like, you really need to come to one of these retreats with me. And I just, at that point, I had nothing else. I was like, yes, I'll go. I go, whatever, if you think this is going to help, I'll do anything. He says, I'll pay for it. Just, we'll find a way to get you there. And, we'll just try to see if this helps, So go back home after that, go right back into my old habits, man. It didn't slow me down at all, dude. It didn't slow me all down. I mean, dude, I just had a breakdown, but I've had a million of those at this point. He's just the person
Yeah.
he was just the only person I had one too. Actually, I had one with my wife before that, and I let her know that there had been something like going on and that I had a little bit of issue, but it wasn't like, hey, honey, like this is, it was like,
It
I might
wasn't like
have
a
a little
full
issue going
tell
on.
all for you, kind
Yeah,
of
can you just
kept it at arm's
keep
length.
an eye on me, like
Yeah.
please really keep an eye on me, like, and not telling her but telling her, like, so
That's probably more concerning for
yeah, dude. So I mean, like, so all that happens or whatever, right? And then, and I'm not telling this story. I want to come clean with this because like I want my story to help people, and I don't know how to tell this without, going within like to the religious side of it and like spiritual side of it and just what happened to me and everything like that. And like that's just a part of my story and stuff. But
Yeah.
so go back to KC. I'm still doing the same stuff. I'm gonna end up dying, within a year. If at this rate, in a year, I'd probably be dead. If I kept that up, 2 years tops. I'd give it tops. At that rate that I was going on a weekly basis, day in, day out. So go back, kind of still doing the whole, going through all that stuff again. Then it comes the time I go to the men's retreat, and it was life changing, man. It was life changing. And I mean that in the sense that I grew up. I grew up and, I got confirmed to the church and I went on church retreats as a kid. And it's not a matter of always a matter of having faith. I've always had a faith. I always had faith in God and everything like that. But it's one thing to, have faith and believe in God. And it's another thing to have faith and obey God, And so for the first time in my life, I decided to crack open the Bible, and start applying stuff to my life. And like when I went to the retreat, I was there and here's the mindset I went into with when I went to the church retreat, right? At that point, I had quote unquote lived my dream. I had multiple looks with WWE. I've had a full-time wrestling contract at one point. I was in a Travis Scott music video. I was in multiple movies at that point or whatever. One's about to drop in December. I was in an independent film that went all over, the US and killed it on the independents, man. And like I had my own whiskey. I was like, I was telling Clay, there had been years where I didn't have to reach out to a soul for a booking, but I still stayed consistently busy week in, week
Mm-hmm.
out, doing my thing. And I, to everyone else, it looked like I had my stuff together. And I got that far on my own, doing things my way. And I used to take pride in doing things my way. I used to take pride in doing things my way in the sense of like, I don't have a certain schedule. I go and I work out when I work out. I go and I do things when I want to do them. And I don't need a certain schedule because I'm Moonshine Mantell and I live by my own terms. You know what I'm saying? Like
Damn straight.
I'm a cyborg because I can do this shit and I can put all this shit in my body and I can still go out there and have a fucking match and nobody's going to know the difference. Where if I was, sober as a bird or lit up, like the 4th of July,
Yeah.
So I lived all that on my terms and it had got me nothing but sadness and sorrow and regret and going to bed more nights than not, just praying for change, just begging for change, just any change, just take this away from me, take how I'm living away. I want to change. I want to grow up. It's time to grow up, right? So go down, do the retreat, and I'm not going to say the specific names of anything or anything like that, man, because I wanted to kind of not just yeah. So I went, did the church retreat. Ryan Davidson, my boy, here's that name again. He was
Yeah.
at the church retreat with me. He was there as well. Tony talked him in as well, and he went there. And Ryan was with me the entire time. The thing was, Ryan didn't know any of that stuff was going on. And like he didn't even pick it up at the time when I was talking with the groups and everything there at the retreat about my addiction and everything. He didn't even put 2 and 2 together. It wasn't until months after when I talked to him that he actually, oh crap, like I didn't, yeah. But I went to the retreat, man, and I kind of decided then and there, it's just like, listen, like I'm going to, change things up and I'm going to start living for God and I'm going to start, putting others' needs first, because what I've kind of learned through all this is like, there's a reason, right? There's a reason why people, fall into addiction. There's a reason people drink. I mean, at least a lot of us, right? A lot of us are doing stuff sometimes and go into excess like that is because we're trying to, hide or mask other things that happen to us, and either just put a Band-Aid on it or just not think about it or whatever it is, and after a while that just kind of became my identity, and I just do that. And it's just like, I don't want to be like that anymore. So I just, basically, dude, I don't even know how to put this, man, but I started living for God, and I don't know. And I know that sounds corny or whatever, but like it literally went, and it wasn't like, boom, things changed, right? It's like I went to the church retreat. I laid it all out there. I was very vulnerable. I talked to all these other guys who were there too. Some of the guys were like ex prisoners who just got out of jail. Some of those guys had lost like their wives or kids or whatever, and they're just who are like the older guys, but they're just going through so much turmoil internally. Some of those guys were other recovering addicts. Some of the guys have just been through the worst of worst, but they were all there, and we all had one thing in common: is this, we want to get better. And so that camaraderie with complete strangers, just being out there for those few days, dude. And it just, it was life changing me, man. And it just made me realize like, hey man, like it was so detoxing because not only, was I out there literally detoxing because I was getting lit up,
Actually,
like,
yeah.
yeah, actually detoxing, but like I was getting out there and I was talking about stuff that I had been holding on to for years, man, whether it be like abuse that I suffered as a kid. I was, when I was growing up, from one of my coaches and mentors and like father figures of mine from the age of 8 to about 11 sexually molested me, and that was it was terrible, and that was and my father growing up was absent. I met him when I was 6. He bounced in and out, but like was in and out, in and out, in and out a lot. And that, and there's other shit that went on in my life, but a lot of that, like, a lot of those events or what led me to all that drug use and stuff like that. And so what I had to do when I came back from the retreat, and I don't want anybody to think like, as I'm saying this is, hey, I went to this church retreat and I gave it all to God and I came home and everything was great and
And poof,
rainbows. And
magically
I,
you're great.
no, it was the opposite of that. I came back home and I went straight to the drug dealer, man. Like
Yeah.
that's what happened, dude. And so, what happened, but after that, it's just like that conviction of, of knowing that I had a problem and knowing that now, hey man, people know about my problem. People who relying on me know about my problem and they want to help me with my problem. And then if I'm continuing to go out there and making my problem worse or not helping it, and just while they're depending on me now, it's just like, dude, there's that conviction from it, like no other. And that's what, you know, I don't want to, I don't want to say this with like sounding weird, right?
Yeah.
But I can totally tell you right now, man, for the 4, 5, 6, I mean, a lifetime of it, but for those specific years when it was at my hardest, there's no way on God's green earth that without anything short of a miracle from me, like just going to that retreat, coming back, and then just doing all this on my own and just naturally getting clean like that, without going to the rehabs, without going to the detoxes, without going to the NA meetings or any of the stuff like that. Like I have my own
Right.
support system and everything like that. But dude, I literally got clean by the help and the word of God, and I know there's going to be a lot of people who listen to this and like, oh, yeah. I know that because I used to be one of them. I used to roll my eyes when people said crap like that, man. And that comes from a believer, but I used to be like, dude, you're full of shit.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I got to my rock bottom and I had nowhere else to turn. Nowhere else to turn. I did everything my way and it got me some happiness and it looked pretty fucking cool from the outside, but inside I was miserable. And it wasn't until I just told God, and straight up, and it's just like, listen, I have a problem right now, and there's no way out. I can't get out of it financially. I can't get out of it on my own. There's no way I can get out of this, and I'm just giving it to you, and help me with this. And it didn't come from just asking for it. From there, you have to dig in. You have to get closer to God. You have to get, that's why every day I get up and I'm in the Word first thing in the morning. It's because the big difference for me used to go straight to the drug dealer first in the morning. Now I go to God. And it's, I know people are going to hear that and they're going to immediately think, oh, well, Moonshine just trade one addiction for the other. No, that's not the case in this one, man, because it wasn't a
No.
case of, it was just, I always had faith
It's
before. It's
that's
just
that's
now. Go
that's
ahead.
yeah, that's a different addiction. That's a different high in
Right.
quotes that
Right.
you're looking for. You're looking for, an actual inside feeling of like joy and fulfillment, as opposed to reaching for something that's not going to give you that over and over again.
Right.
That's
Right.
it's not the same, it's comparing apples to oranges.
Absolutely, man. And just, and as I slowly got myself in a better relationship with God, everything else kind of slowly got to where it needed to be. All of a sudden, like my addictions were still there. Dude, I still get cravings every single day, but now it's gotten to the point where it's just like I know now, and I've gone back to that addiction multiple times, handful of times at this point since I've gotten my stuff together, quote unquote. But it's just like now when I go back and to do it, it's not fun for me anymore. I don't have fun with it. It doesn't make me feel good like it used to. It actually does almost the exact opposite to me now. And it's
Mm.
just that's such a blessing in its own because it used to be like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. Like I can't wait to feel like this first thing, when I get up and last thing before I try to go to bed, you know, if I go to bed. But
Yeah.
it's just man, the joy that I've found with, developing a better relationship with God and getting closer to him every day. It's not, I know a lot of people, they hear about, people talking about getting right with God and getting a relationship with God. And you gotta, it's not in a selfish manner to be like, hey, you need to put God before anything else. It's because when you do that, everything else slowly gets better in the process. My relationship with my wife is better and, than it's ever been now, and it's just because I have myself in check, where I need to be as a man and with God and everything like that. My relationship with my kids at my school, with my coworkers, with the company, with just all my relationships are so much better now because I prioritize my faith and everything. And in doing that every single day, I work on becoming a better man. I think before I speak. Man, dude, there are some times where I got an assault charge when I was 20 years old. When I was bouncing, I started bouncing when I was 20 on 6th Street. I got an assault charge about 4 or 5 months after I started bouncing. I used to have this thing where, like in my early 20s, man, if someone said something or, got in my face or anything like that, it's just I just see red real quick. Wouldn't even think twice about it. Knock that motherfucker out right then and there. Knock them on their ass. Make them think twice. Yeah. So it's just, but now completely opposite. If someone sends me a text or if someone does something, like I take my time. Think everything through. I have more of a thought process, and it's just like I try to live more, like I don't know, more godly every day, dude. And it's weird saying all this stuff too, man. I don't want anyone who's
Well,
listening to this,
well, you're leading with true conviction. You're planning your day out accordingly, and like I said, you're leading with conviction. You have a perfect game plan for how you want to present yourself, and you're not going to just be that on the outside.
yeah,
You're gonna leave it from the inside. And
absolutely,
if
man.
you're gonna show somebody your true self, you need to show it 100%,
Right, right, and
100
that's
proof, if you will.
yeah, absolutely, man. And that's this, and that's kind of like and that's another reason why just when you guys asked me to do the podcast and everything, I was like, man, I definitely want to do it, and that's why I was kind of hesitant. I didn't get back to you immediately, and I took a little bit of time to finally to get everything like because it just took me some time. So I was like, man, I want to do this podcast, but it's just like I don't want to go on there and just be fake with this, man, because like I there's been so much that has gone on the last 6 years of my life that nobody knows about, man. And I honestly, I didn't think I would be here today to talk about this stuff, man. Because I thought for a long time, I was just like, man, I'm just gonna die. I'm gonna die, and this is just how it's gonna go. I'm either gonna die in my sleep, or I'm gonna die, maybe get in a wreck, or whatever it is. I didn't think I was gonna be around much longer, and I just knew at the rate I was going, it was inevitable. So I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful for the support system I have. I'm so thankful for all those events happening, like with the deaths and everything, because everything, like, and the reason that's why I had to tell you guys like that, because it was just one thing after another, and it kept getting me to that spot to where I needed to be to finally just be like, dude, like, listen, like something's got to change, or, or I'm either, like I said, going to die, or I can't live with myself anymore,
Yeah.
and the biggest, and another thing too, I didn't even mention this, but probably, not probably, the biggest thing out of all that, and another reason I had to get clean is because, dude, like soon after that, weeks after I went to that retreat and to turn my life around, which did help me ultimately turn everything around. Weeks after that, I got married, you
Mm.
know? So like and that was so important to me going into my marriage with my wife. I was just like, there's no way in hell I'm going into this marriage,
Cannot start
with
it out like that.
no, there's no way, dude. How can you lie to someone about that and just be at that level and be that messed up and that far in it and that deep in it and start this, marriage and this new life with someone? You
That ain't a
can't do
bad foot.
Life
That's
together.
Oh, dude, that's the worst way to start it. So she
and
knew.
you know something about bad feet.
Yeah, man. So she knew, and that's when, after all that stuff happened, and I told Tony about everything, and agreed to go. That's when I let her know how bad, things have ultimately gotten and stuff. And but still, still hold some of it back. She didn't know exactly how bad, because I still didn't want. There's still that nervousness of I'm not going to tell her. I'm going to let her know a little bit more, but not as bad, because I still don't want her to leave me.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't want to scare her away, man.
Right, right, right. So, I mean, but thank God, literally for second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth chances with this stuff, man. I'm thankful to be alive. I'm thankful for my sobriety. It's a never, it's I don't want to say it's a struggle, but it's one of those things you deal with every day. And
Yeah,
I
one
never
battle
thought,
after another.
and I
Yeah.
never thought I would be, waking up and, the first thing that goes in your head is, hey, let's go get some, dope or whatever. It's just like, but that's just, the reality I live in sometimes now. But the thing is, now it's just like where I was years ago, where that be the first thing that go in my mind. Now I don't act on that stuff. First I get up, if I've slept at all, I'd get up. First person I'm texting is, the dealer. And now I wake up in the morning. First thing I do, go through my morning routine or whatever, go sit on the couch, and I get, into my scripture and devotion and everything. And not only that, I start, sharing that with other people and within my, circle, and sending that out to them, man. So to say, things have changed drastically in a year would be an understatement, man, because you go from, your number one priority every day is going and getting coke and staying high, no matter what you're doing, no matter what you got going on, no matter where you're traveling, no matter what. And next, now my priority every day is just staying right with God.
Yeah, dude, it's a hell of a thing just explaining all this to us and really getting into the nuts and bolts of everything. And my biggest question is, what was your wife's response reaction? When you took everything straight to her and you 100% told it all to her. What was her reaction to all this?
Disbelief.
Really?
Almost like a little bit of disbelief. Not, I don't want to, not that she didn't believe me, but it's almost like, I don't think she didn't, because I mean, how would you, if someone, if you guys, let's say, like, your wives, your girlfriend, or whatever, someone, your roommate, someone you live with, 24/7, for, at that point, I've been living with her for 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
and she, she didn't have any clue. So she
Hmm.
was just like, she knew I did it. I mean, that wasn't a secret, but the amount
She
and
didn't know
quantity and
the copious, yeah.
oh, dude, not if she would have known, she would have kicked my ass. She would have tried to get me help. She would have, tried to knock some sense into me, man. But, I just that's the issue. That's the hardest thing, man. I mean, it's like I said, at the time I thought it was a blessing, but now it's a curse, man, being that functioning addict. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to really come clean whenever I absolutely can relate to that, and that's just another thing that kind of just puts me on your team is trying to live like that is absolutely insane. And you know, uh, I don't even know where to go with this. Like that's the fact that you're okay with, dropping this kind of knowledge and this kind of experience on our podcast is amazing. And brother, all I'll say is I'm thankful you're here, because that is no easy feat. That is no small opponent to defeat, and it's no opponent that you may ever defeat. It's going to be one that's going to, creep back up on you every single day. But one thing's for certain is I know for a fact that you are not going to lay down and die to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. That's like I said, dude. I feel crazy talking about it, and I feel crazy even living through it, man. It was, you never think growing up like, hey, man, I'm gonna be a addict, and think if my wife, dude, and like the degree it would have been in if I didn't have my wife, fiance at the time, but wife now, but if she wasn't there, dude, I'd have been on the streets. Like,
Mhm.
she helped me through a lot of that shit, dude, and she didn't know it, but like, she helped. I would have been, I'd have been on the streets, or broke, living on someone's couch or something like that, man. So it's just you know it, like you said, it's gonna be one of those things. i'll I'll have to deal with it the rest of my life, man. But the thing is, if I leave that all on me to deal with, I'm screwed, but
Yep.
like now I lean on myself and a higher power, and I got my crew, and I got my inner circle, and now you guys are part of the inner circle too, dude. And that's the cool thing
We're
about,
glad to be here.
yeah, man. And that's the cool thing about, coming clean with a lot of this stuff is, once I come clean with it with people and more people, now I have people who I can be like, oh shit, like if I'm in trouble and I go back down that path again, I have people who I can hit up and be like, hey man, listen, what we talked about, like I'm in that spot again, and
Yeah.
I have people who I can, rely on because they already know where I'm at and I don't have to bullshit and I can't bullshit anymore because they already know
Yeah,
it.
man,
So
dude, like,
that's what I realized after I started telling people. I started thinking about it. I'm like, oh shit, now I really can't go back into it because I'm gonna feel terrible, and they're gonna really be able to know. So,
it
Do
feels
you ever?
liberating, but you're holding yourself to a higher standard. You're like, it's not just
Yeah.
knowing this shit. It's everybody knowing this shit. And if I fuck up and I fail, everybody else is gonna know, and they're gonna think the exact same thing that I'm already thinking.
right, right, and that's the thing, man, dude. That's what you gotta get comfortable with knowing, just like we're all capable of messing up
Yeah,
and falling short and messing up and just whether it be in life or whether it be going down the wrong path with addictions or whatever, man. We're all capable of messing up and screwing up and making terrible decisions. It's the fact that you just learn from them, try to grow from them, and do whatever you can to find that path to steer away from them.
absolutely, dude. And like I said, it's got to feel liberating, to tell the story.
Dude, absolutely,
Yeah.
man, absolutely. And then that's another when I told you guys when I went to that church retreat, with I'm there with a bunch of strangers, right? But I'm telling them all, and this is why I want to shake Ryan Davidson sometimes. 'Cause I'm like, brother, were you not even listening when I was talking? So he's saying, I was like, you must not have been listening. But dude, just going there and for that week, those few days with a bunch of strangers and just being able to be vulnerable and just just like you just said, it is very liberating. Just telling people something you've been hiding for so long, and it's just yeah, is at first it's kind of a little bit embarrassing, but it's more of a relief and liberating, like you were saying, just because you finally get it out, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, that feels nice, not having to, just not talk about this shit and tell
Do
people,
you,
when stuff's bothering you.
do you feel sometimes that you are now maybe a little like too honest with it? Like you can't hide it because of being
Yes,
so open about it?
yes.
Like
So,
there's no
okay.
chance.
So here's what it's yes to that question in one sense. So now, more than ever, I am very open about my faith. I will, you probably see like either me posting about it more, you might see me, liking more, stuff that, is more Jesus or God related or whatever, and I do not hide that anymore because dude, like where I was, where I was in my life and to where I am now, the complete 180 that happened in my life of just by allowing God into my life and living a better life in his way. I I I will never not give thanks for that and not be open and honest about that because I want everyone else to feel that. And it's not that I'm pushing my beliefs on anyone. It's just saying like, "Hey man, listen, I used to be the guy in church who would go to church and like just sit there and be like, dude, this is freaking boring." Like or I would listen to someone's testimony and I'd be like, "Oh, this lady's full of crap."
Yeah.
Like, and I just roll my eyes, or I'd be like, "Oh gosh, another worship song." Like, like, "Oh, wake me up later." That was me for the longest time. For the longest time, even up to like a few years ago, I couldn't stand it. But now, what I've gone through and what I've been, saved from, literally,
Mhm.
I
Literally.
can't I can't think like that anymore, Like obviously, yeah, a lot of the church music or whatever, I think it's lame or whatever, but I mean, I'm behind the message behind it. And
Right.
but I won't be used to. I would hide my faith, not talk about it. If someone asked, I'd tell them. But now it's just like, listen, man, I was in a shit situation. I was going to die, and like I used to wake up and I was depressed because of abuse. I was depressed because of abandonment. I was depressed because of illness. I was depressed because of addiction. This, that, everything. And I could go down the list. And, we haven't even, what we've touched today is like
Tip
the
of the
tip of the
iceberg.
iceberg, guys. But I don't want to be that guy who just dwells and tells you about this is what I've gone through and everything. That's never what I want to be like. But I know enough and I've experienced enough to know that, man, if you've gone through some shit in your life, or if you're going through some stuff in your life, or if you need some help in your life, you need some direction in your life, if you need some love in your life, man, if you allow God into your life, I promise. And if you really seek a relationship with him, it's not just like, okay, well, let me, pray from time to time. If you seek him and a relationship with him to become closer, I promise it is like freaking day and night. And that's all I can go by, is just by my own personal experience. And that's why, when you ask that question, is it, you know, in that sense, yes, about my faith, because like it's just like, bro, I cannot give thanks for this. I would be a fool, and I would be a POS, if I didn't give thanks, on a daily for what I've been, delivered from. As far as the addiction stuff, it's hard for me not to talk to. What's really hard for me not to do is just to talk to like my students, my kids about this stuff.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you about this.
Dude, there's been
Yeah.
so many times because I have kids who I coach ranging from the ages of 16 to, or maybe 17 now, but they've been as young as like 15 or 16, all the way to, I have some students who are, I've had some students who are in the early 50s, right?
Wow.
But like, so like, I I always want to help my kids. In as a coach, I think, and as a mentor, this as a father, you want to steer them away from bad decisions that you've made,
Yeah.
or poor decisions that you've made, or anything like that. So like, I've wanted to be open to my kids and be like, listen, guys, I know some of you guys like to go out and party a lot, and like to drink on the reg and stuff like that, which is fine. You guys are young and that kind of stuff. But listen, I'm telling you now, as someone who did that 25 years of partying their life, yeah, it's fun, but it's never going to fulfill anything, man.
Yeah.
Eventually you're going to get to the point where you're partying like that and you just wake up and you feel like shit all the time, like. And so there's a lot of instances where I want to come clean to my kids about the whole addiction stuff. And I just want to be like, listen, guys, like, this is what I went through. This is what, not only with the addiction, but with my abuse and just other shit growing up that I've went through and overcame. Like, I want to be very open and honest with them about it, because I never want them to feel like they're fighting that alone. Because
Yeah,
I'd much rather them being like, hey, coach went through this shit. Coach had a father who, ditched him, I can go talk to him about it, instead of, going and getting drunk and partying instead, like I did.
Right.
Or hey, like, I'm getting to the point now where maybe my drinking's a little out of whack, or I'm drinking a little bit too much for comfort, and I know coach dealt with addiction issues or whatever. Maybe I should go talk to him about that, or just shit like that. That's it's been so hard for me not to like tell my kids and be like, listen, guys, I want to be there for you, and I want to steer you clear from all this, because I don't want them at the same time being like, well, dude, you were high this entire time you were coaching us, like these years ago.
Right.
So how do you have that conversation, So
Yeah.
it's just like, yeah, man, I very much, and I'm hoping that's why, I'm in a good spot with myself right now, with my sobriety and just being, this is the best spot, mentally, spiritually, I've been in my entire life, and, like I said, aside from the physical health issues and stuff, life is going great. But yeah, man, it's tough not wanting to scream this from the mountaintops sometimes and just being like, I did it, I overcame it, but because you don't want to lose people's confidence, you don't want to have people look at you differently, you don't want people, dude. And like, here's another thing, like I have a hard time talking about this, because now I got to go back and look at all these people who I had matches with, and of all these promoters I worked for, and all these fans who I was around, and all these people who, like, I was, they depended on me in one way, shape, or form, whether it was bringing me in as a talent, whether it was to cut a promo, whether it was to do something, that I was fucked up during all that, and it's just like,
Right.
how do I get their confidence back?
Yeah.
I don't want that to lead. I don't want them to think differently than me. I don't want them to be like, oh, this guy's a fucking, a jerk off addict, who doesn't have his stuff
Right.
together, or and he did a great job of fooling us once. How do I know he's not full of crap again?
Yeah.
So, dude, and there's all that comes to mind, man. And that's why I haven't talked about it, because I didn't want to lose, not only lose faith in the kids I coach. I didn't want to lose faith in the businesses I run and own. I didn't want to lose faith in the fans. I didn't want to lose faith in any of my coworkers or peers, in the wrestling scene. I didn't want to lose the faith in any of the promoters who book me on a regular basis and pay me well and fly me in, and, dude, like all that shit, man. It's just, it's tough, dude. It's tough not wanting to talk about it, but it's even as much as that sucks or whatever, dude. It would be terrible to think about, like, dude, like not talking about it and not potentially helping someone out there and not potentially like steering someone clear of making the same decisions and not maybe helping someone get closer with their faith or maybe having someone just anything, dude. That's kind of where I'm at now, man, in my career. Like I'm going to be 40 in like in a year and a half or a little bit less than a year and a half, man. And like with all these injuries and dude, I haven't even, I have arthritis in my left ankle. My left ankle goes out half the time, dude. I'll be standing up, my ankle goes out. I have permanent nerve damage in my lower back. My lower back goes out 2 to 3 times a year where I can't unhinge. I have bone chips in both of my elbows. I have, I've had 5 concussions. I have a torn PCL, like there's a lot of wear and tear on my body, man. So right now, I still have, don't get me wrong, I still have plenty left in the gas tank. But right now, more than ever, my more focus is on, developing the next generation of wrestlers or the next generation of talent or the next generation of, promotions or, shows for the Kansas City area. It's all about like the future and helping out that and less about me now, and
Really?
hopefully what I can do is just learn from all the crap that, I've gone through in my life and all the bad decisions and all the good decisions and all the hard work and all the piss poor work. And through all those experiences, learn, come out on the side better and, help others and teach others and help them, steer clear of all the bullshit and get to where they want to be.
Yeah, dude, you were talking about, being afraid of people, losing faith or, thinking of you in a different light. I can only speak for myself. Um, you know, Whenever I first saw you and shit like that, and then first met you and like getting in the business and, coming up around you and shit and, just being so excited to see you every single time. Dude, I'm more of a fucking fan after this conversation than I ever was before, just because
Go ahead.
it,
Go ahead and speak for me too. He's speaking for me too.
because
No, I appreciate that,
it
man. I
takes a
appreciate that.
fucking man, and some serious fucking balls to fucking be 100% vulnerable and willing and, ready and able to take all the shit that that you think you're going to get or anything like that. It takes a lot of fucking guts and a lot of fucking courage. And I think anybody that was to turn their back on you or look at you in a different fucking light is a fucking idiot. Honestly.
Yeah, they weren't on your team anyways, you know.
I'm a fucking moonshine guy to the fucking core, and I will
Yeah.
continue to chase the fucking dragon that is Moonshine Mantell. Because
Yeah, I really appreciate that, guys. That's and that's I think that's where a lot of people, and I don't know. Like I said, man, I didn't go the normal route like most people go. I didn't go to the meetings. I didn't go to any of the detoxes. I haven't talked to any therapists or counselors about this. I've talked to God. That's it, in like my
Yeah.
circle. And I don't know how I've come out on this better, but
Well,
praise Him that I did. But dude, I think that's where a lot of it comes from. Is a lot of people just don't want to. Come out and talk about it because they don't want people to think anything less of them, man.
yeah,
And it's that's uncertainty and that you get scared when it comes to it, man.
yeah, absolutely. What were you gonna say, Jake?
well, your honesty, I commend it, man. Like I 100% back everything that Hostage said. Anybody that listens to this and they think anything other than you, other than that, you should be a champion of this is a fool.
No, I
Uh,
appreciate that, guys.
that's really all there is to it, And I said it earlier on the first half of the episode, but you are very crucial to both me and Hostage's careers in wrestling.
Yeah,
I saw you back again in 2024 after not seeing you for nearly a decade, and I work for the very company that I saw that night. Now, 2 years later,
yeah,
and part of it was the story that you and Supertex told that night for the 360 Pro Heavyweight Championship. And you could have been fucked up then. You
Oh,
had me
bro,
fooled.
if
You,
it's the show I'm thinking of, I was gone, like gone. And not to get back to but that's the scary part of this, man.
yeah,
It's just like
you had me fooled.
dude, and I mean, even Clay, you talk about me teaching you those forearms, right?
bro. You taught me forearms. You taught me punches, like how to actually like Like, cause I knew how to lock up. I knew how to throw a forearm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean,
Dude, me
guess
locked up, bro. And
yeah,
like,
when I went in
I'm
there that
in.
day to, teach you guys all that stuff, guess who was in the parking lot right before that just nailing fucking rails, dude? Just and it's just like that just it's not I'm not glorifying that. I'm not, like, oh, I'm cool or anything. It's just like that's how it was, man.
That's just what it was.
And it's just like you didn't know when I had that match with Brent, but I was high off my ass. You didn't know when I came in there and taught a seminar, but I was high
Yeah,
off my ass. So
yeah,
it's just like,
Right.
it's just so scary, man. And praise God, I'm beyond it and everything like that, dude. But I just, it's scary, man. It's really scary stuff. So I hope, if anybody takes anything away from this, episode, it's just like if you're in that kind of a situation, or you think you're going down that route, or know someone who is, or anything like that, man, just ask for help. Ask somebody, ask someone you trust, ask anyone, get anybody. Ask. I wish I would have just told anyone, at least someone would have, listened, but I just spent so much time, man, just trying to, being ashamed and just a lot of us, I think, and I think a lot of maybe what I've, been talking about just comes down to this. A lot of it just comes down to us as individuals thinking we can take on everything by ourselves,
yeah,
and
Yeah.
like either we're gonna fix this problem on our own, or we're gonna get through this problem on our own, or we're gonna come out through it and we're gonna do it all on our own, man. And that's not realistic, man. That's not
Yeah.
realistic in life. We all need help, whether it's from a higher power or whether it's from friends and family. We all need help from time to time.
I resonate with that, feeling like you've got nobody else.
Yeah.
All I've got is me, myself, and I. So I'm gonna dig myself out of this hole. And you say that you've done everything Moonshine's way. You did this Moonshine's way too. You found your path to get out of this. And, make it any way you want it, but that's Moonshine's way, is to
yeah.
figure out your own way out of your hole.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And you did it by being honest and finding your path with God. That's beautiful, brother. I am so thankful that you've spent this past, I don't know, 3 hours on this show with us.
3 hours. Yeah. Yeah, man.
And it's absolutely incredible. Haas, is what you got to say.
dude. I mean, I mirror every single thing that you just said. Like I said, I mean, Moonshine's my guy. Moonshine's been the one that I wanted to get on here, the one that I've always loved talking to, always like just super elated in the back, and like it's just like little things, like even just seeing you, like not seeing you in person or anything like that, but like, dude, like I'll be in the back behind the curtain, the show's starting for 360, and we show the whole pre-show intro. The One of the first people that you see and the last person that you see is Moonshine Mantell, just going fucking nuts on that shit. And it's always there, bro. Always chasing that shit. And I couldn't be happier to have you, dude. And like call you a fucking friend.
I appreciate that, man. I feel the same way about you guys, man. I just like I said, man, that's the cool thing about 360. It's just it's a lot of good brothers and good sisters a part of it, man. Like I literally everyone on there, like I kind of have like some sort of past with, like from Baby D and
Yep.
from Baby D, Brent, from Jamie, Chandler, Damo, Cam, Will All Day, like all those guys and some of the girls on the roster as well, like Jazz, Rodney, and all that. Like I just, it's cool, man. That's why I love working with 360. I love working there and I love working with you guys. Yeah, because it's just it's kind of what I'm trying to build up here, and what I've kind of built up here is just kind of a family atmosphere and just people you like. It's not going to work. It's not going to another booking. It's going to have fun.
Yeah, and dude, that's one of the reasons like I'm so excited to get up there and get with you guys. Like I'm coming out in October, I think is what
Yep,
we on the
October. Yep.
post there. I'm really excited to see how everything is, and be feel the atmosphere and everything like that. I'm looking forward to it, bro.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too.
It's gonna be a lot of fun, dude. Well, shit,
Absolutely.
Jack, I think that's a hell of a spot to close this thing out, man.
I was about to
Yep.
say, man, you know, uh, what's most important right now, Moonshine, is getting yourself rested and recovered. Take care of your boys up there, up at Central States Wrestling up in Kansas. Guys, thank you guys so much for joining us on this episode. He's 100 proof. Thank God he's a country boy. But one thing that I'll say is he 100%, and that's why it's part of his name, 100% Mantell. Moonshine, thank you so much for joining us on this 2-part episode of Bell to Coffin.
Thank you guys so much for having me, man.
Love you, boys. We'll catch you on
Love
the
you,
next
brother.
All right.